Hello, everybody. Welcome to Common Censored. Every week, I'm joined by the always amazing Eleanor Goldfield.
And it's not every week, and I'm not always amazing, but I'm here.
I think you were saying it's not every week that you're always amazing. But
Well,
yes,
that would have been a more abridged version of saying that. But I'm also not here every week, as you will have noticed.
But hello, everybody. We've got an amazing show for you. Unfortunately, it's because the horrors around the world just provide us with a lot of fodder. So that's part of it. Later in the hour, we're going to bring you some clips of a truly incredible and heart-wrenching interview with a doctor in Gaza that Eleanor did for Project Censored. And so definitely make sure you hang in there and see some of that. I mean, the reality he brings in even just the little clips that I've seen of that interview. And we'll also tell you where to get the full interview. But anyway, that's coming up later. But let's begin with the fact that Israel is unleashing a heavy onslaught on Lebanon right now. Hundreds of strikes in Lebanon. Lebanon and Hezbollah have been responding with strikes on northern Israel. And yeah, it all just seems to be growing. Supposedly, the U.S. and U.K. are urging restraint, which is not something they do, really.
Do you have the New York Times article?
I do have
because
that
is
yes.
Amazing.
Let me.
Sorry if you were saving that, but it's just so batshit.
Let me find. Oh man, I thought I did. There it is.
So I think everyone here knows how we feel about the New York Times. But this, a friend of mine actually sent this to me, and I thought it was a joke at first that they were being this congratulatory, as if it were a game. And for those just listening, I'll read it. The New York Times headline reads, "How Israel Built a Modern-Day Trojan Horse, Exploding Pagers." Subheadline is, "The Israeli government did not tamper with the Hezbollah devices that exploded. Defense and intelligence officials say it manufactured them as part of an elaborate ruse." A ruse.
It's a fun little ruse.
I lack the appropriate language to explain how batshit this is that you could write this headline and subheadline and not immediately bash yourself in the face with a frying pan. It's so remarkable and disgusting. This was a terrorist attack. Can you imagine the New York Times talking about a terrorist attack in Paris or something? What a clever ruse! They put a bomb on a subway car. Can you imagine them saying that?
Despite the fact that many more were killed and many more were injured and many more will have life-changing injuries from this, do you remember back when they were covering, or maybe you've seen coverage if you're too young, the Unabomber? They often said it was a clever ruse he was up to. It was a Trojan horse that Unabomber was using.
He was so clever
with his clever ruse as he blew up secretaries and people at airlines. This is utterly insane. And for those of you watching, this is my tweet. Although Eleanor turned me on to this showed me the headline. I have changed the word Trojan horse to terror attack and the word ruse to terrorist plot, and that's what it absolutely should be.
I mean, a ruse, I remember hearing about a ruse when we were in theater school. A ruse is a comedic, fun, light and airy. It is absolutely remarkable. And this is just yet another example of why the only thing that you should use the New York Times for is wiping your ass in lieu of toilet paper.
And it does, if you go to page A14, it gives instructions on how to properly wipe your ass with said New York Times. So at least they're helpful there.
They also tell you what fall fashion goes best with wiping your ass.
I want to thank Tommy D408 over on Rumble for the donation. Solidarity. Thank you all of you who support the show in one form or another. Okay, so Israel's unleashing these attacks, and in terms of the number, I'm sure you won't get this from our mainstream media. They would never give you these numbers, but Jason Hickel has pointed out that the Israel-Hezbollah conflict, over 7,400 cross-border attacks since October 2023, and yet the number of Hezbollah attacks is minuscule compared to Israel's attacks. Israel is dropping far more bombs on Lebanon than Lebanon drops on them, and yet that's not what you get from most of your mainstream media.
Yeah, Jason points out that 80% of the cross-border attacks have been Israel perpetrating them. And I think this just once again shows the restraint that other countries have shown with regards to what Israel is doing. Some might argue it's far too much restraint and that the countries in the region should really dial it up a few notches. But it's absolutely remarkable that Israel is trying so hard to start this world war, and the rest of the region is like, could we not?
And speaking of could we not, do you remember there was a time, I mean, it's distant history, it must have been 40, 50 years ago, when the United States and the Biden administration said that they were for a ceasefire, and they were always trying to get that ceasefire, and it was going to happen any minute, and if they could just figure out the right little details here and there, they'd have a ceasefire. Well, now even the mainstream media seems to be reporting that Biden and them have essentially abandoned this bullshit. Like, I mean, it's not even lip service anymore.
Abandoned suggests that at some point they were really working towards
abandon the lip service.
Oh, okay.
Abandon the lip service. They're not even saying that they're, this is from The Independent. U.S. no longer expects Israel-Hamas ceasefire before Biden leaves office.
Or after. Like, do you think, I mean, it's absurd to think that whoever ends up in the White House, again, we can have long discussions about this, but whoever ends up in the White House, that policy towards Israel would somehow change for the better. Like, it's absolutely laughable. And I shared a tweet a few days ago that, somebody said it's remarkable that people can look at what Kamala Harris is supporting in Israel and then make the decision to vote for her. We are not the same. And I think that's a really powerful, like, a powerful comment, not because you're a single issue voter, though I would say genocide would cross the threshold of being that single issue, but anything that would be considered progress in your mind is what Harris is against, and the Democrats just as much as Trump. So I think, like, it is really remarkable to see these headlines where, yes, they're trying to sugarcoat it, like abandoning it as if it's a workout routine that they were actively doing and then abandoned. No, they never did it. They never tried. But they still can't sugarcoat the fact that, like, the Democrats aren't going to try. They're not even going to attempt. And yet people still find themselves caught up in this liberal propaganda to be pushed to vote for someone like Harris. And it's almost as mind-boggling, or even more so than that New York Times headline. I
heard Brianna Joy Gray talking about this, that the whole ceasefire thing was, and I've mentioned this many times, it was all bullshit to just allow Israel. The idea that Israel even wants a ceasefire is laughable. And we now know, I brought you this story a few days ago, that Netanyahu's office actually forged the documents saying Hamas was like asking for more things in order to justify, oh, well, they're asking for more things. That's why we can't have a ceasefire. But whatever, it's all bullshit. And it's just designed to get people to think that these people want this to stop. Both the Biden administration, the Netanyahu administration, all of them. And it's very similar to the two-state solution. That has been going on. Supposedly they want that, quotes there. Supposedly they want that for years, decades now. Oh, two-state solution, we're working towards a two-state solution. The Biden administration is working towards a two-state solution. It is all lies. The Biden, the Clinton administration, the Obama administration, the Trump administration, the Bush administration, the other Bush administration, the Reagan administration. Yeah, they've all worked for a two-state solution. And it's all lies in order to just give Israel more time to steal more land. That's it. So this is very, very similar. Thank you, Mary the Nora, for the donation over on Rumble. Thank you for supporting the show.
Also, someone commented a little while ago, "You're voting against killing babies. That's gay." And I love that comment so much.
Okay, so let's get to another place that, I feel like this is like an ongoing segment. I could have given it a segment name. I'm terrible with segment names. Every once in a while, I'll like have one, like the dick of the day or whatever. No, it was douche canoe of the day or something.
Douche canoe is a good word.
And I just can't stick with them. I can't remember. It doesn't mean I stopped covering douche canoes. I just, and you should cover them for protection. But it's that I just can't remember to do the this is your douche of the day. Anyway, I need a segment called "Here's How Democrats or Republicans Are the Same." Because I feel like each day I do a new topic. And here's today's topic, courtesy of you and Stephen Simler.
Well, you made it sound like I had anything to do with this report. I didn't. I just
found
found
the report.
Yes.
That's the finding is the key. Treasure hunters don't make the gold coin that was pirates put there 100 years, 300 years ago.
I don't know if I'm offended or glad that you're comparing me to a treasure hunter. Let me circle back to that later. So this is one of Stephen Simler's great graphs and research. And this is about nuclear buildup. And
I would like to read a little of this.
Oh, well, you could go ahead.
Because it talks about how the Democrats once criticized Trump's profligate spending on nuclear weapons, according to the 2020 Democratic Party platform.
Which doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything, but it means they're giving lip service.
No, I know.
Again, it's the lip service.
Everything they do is lip service. I just want to remind listeners that if you are getting excited that something good is on the Democratic Party platform, it would basically be like you writing it on a piece of paper and then just setting that piece of paper on fire. Go ahead.
They would need a chapstick the size of like your kitchen counter in order to deal with all the lip service they're giving. I think their lips would just fall off. 2020 Democratic Party platform said the U.S. has a moral responsibility and national security imperative to eventually eliminate nuclear weapons worldwide. I can't even believe they said that. Democrats criticized Trump's reckless embrace of a new arms race. Quote, rather than reduce nuclear dangers, he's amplified them and brought the world closer to catastrophe. The Trump administration's proposal to build new nuclear weapons is unnecessary, wasteful, and indefensible, reducing our over-reliance and excessive expenditure on nuclear weapons. So that was 2020. Here we are 4 years later. The Biden-Harris administration has continued Trump's nuclear buildup and has spent more on nuclear weapons, both renovating them or whatever that term is, refurbishing them, and creating.
It's like upgrading.
Upgrading them, yeah, which is basically new ones. It's people say it's like taking the body of a car and putting a whole new engine inside. Well, it's kind of a new car in a lot of ways if you take the body of a nuclear weapon and upgrade it. But now here's what the 2024 platform says. The Biden-Harris administration is modernizing each leg of our nuclear triad, updating our command, control, and communication systems, and investing in our nuclear enterprise to ensure that we can sustain and enhance, if necessary, capabilities and posture. The platform says that in the next term, Democrats will continue to invest in upgrading deterrence capabilities, such as our submarine force and the nuclear triad. So basically the polar opposite of 2020.
Well, and I think I'm wondering who ended up writing that or who suggested that in the 2020 platform, but I'm
probably because they had a bit of a threat from Bernie.
That's what I was just going to say, is that I think it's because there was somebody that seemed like a viable, a worthy adversary, perhaps. And now that there isn't one, and when I say worthy adversary, I don't mean somebody that's good. I just mean somebody that could have a snowball's chance in hell of winning. And so I think that they don't even feel the need to sugarcoat it. I think they also feel pretty convinced and comfortable in the fact that nobody's reading their damn platform, which is another thing that just goes to show you, like, I'm looking at you liberals. What the fuck? Like, it's not good enough to just say that somebody is not Trump. A lot of people are not. Netanyahu is not Trump. Would you vote for him? Like, it's not good enough to just say that someone is not something that you are for some reason have been programmed into thinking is scarier than the alternative. When you ask, and there are videos of this, like at the Democratic National Convention, there are like people walking around like, hey, what of Kamala's policies do you think are the best? And they're like, oh, I just think it's great that she's a woman. And it's like, that's not a policy.
Well, and then there's another video of like, what are your favorite achievements ever? And people just get angry. They're like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Right. And you're like, I'm sorry, I asked you a very basic question. You should, I mean, how the hell can you support someone if you don't know anything about them? And that's the thing. It's like Democrats really rely, which is why they love this election. They love it because ultimately they can't really lose. Because even if Trump wins, they're going to continue on their merry little genocidal way. Like nothing changes for them. And if they win, cool. That we're just going to continue doing that anyway. And so they are banking on you being afraid of Trump, and they're banking on you not paying attention to a damn thing that they say because they're banking on you being afraid of Trump. It is really, really sick. It is a psychological game, and I'm so sad that more people don't recognize that they're being played like a little flute.
Do you want to talk about this chart here?
I mean, one of the things that I love the most about Steven is that like he is the quintessential of a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Yeah.
The graphs are just like, oh, that's bad. Oh, that's just so Biden. Well, so for those listening.
To the podcast, which everyone can check out.
Yes.
Called Common Censored.
And it's wherever you listen to podcasts. Imagine like the if you just Googled a stereotypical graph where each bar is greater than the next one, almost incrementally.
Just a bar graph going up, 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 up.
And there are five little blocks. The first block is Obama's budget in 2017, which is $34 billion. And then in the middle, you have it's like the three little bears. In the middle, you have Trump's.
By the way, this is just the nuclear weapons budget.
Yeah. This is not like, well, people who listen to this would know that $34 billion is way too low to be a military budget.
Just it'd be military.
In the middle, there's the Trump's 2021 budget, which is $48 billion, and then the next one is $53 billion, which was Biden's budget last year for nuclear buildup, and then the proposal for next year is $69 billion. So we went from 48 to 53. That's a jump of 5, right? Unless my math is total shite. And then you go from 53 to 69. Holy shit.
And 69 is exactly double the 2017 budget.
That is $16 billion. What could we buy for $16 billion? Like
clean water.
Shudder to think.
Clean water for the entire world for a year or more than a year.
There you go.
2 years.
And that is $69 billion. That is more than $20 billion more than what Trump spent on the nuclear buildup in office. $20 billion.
So there you go. Yet another policy where the Democratic administration and the Republican administration do exactly the same while they pretend to be different. And Trump has to keep making up things about Kamala Harris that are utterly false in order to have different positions from her. He pretends she's a Marxist socialist who's destroying our nuclear weapons.
Well, and what happens is that the Democrats are always
Kevin O'Neill.
The Democrats are then always like trying to play defense to prove how fascist they are. You know, it's like, it's an open border. And then you have the Democrats being like, look, we put a bunch of kids in cages. We've separated a bunch of families. We don't even allow refugees in anymore. And it's like, oh, was that supposed to sound better? Was that? Oh, okay.
Right. Robin Ryan says that was the thing about Citizens United. I saw it as an elites coming out party. Nothing left to fear from the commons, and they came out of the shadows. Minalita says, I thought the Dems were the party of peace. She's being sarcastic, by the way, everybody. Just so you know.
People come on to your comment thread and are sarcastic.
Yeah, I like
I'm really
it.
shocked about that.
I attract all
I wonder who like sets the vibe for that.
Yeah, who creates that? All right, let's talk about the genocide gentry. Let's get back to Israel's genocide for a moment.
Yeah. So this is actually something I had not there's a whole website if you want to check it out. It's called genocidegentry.org, and it gives a lot
It's
of.
a great name, by the way.
It really is. I'm a big fan of alliteration. I try to use it as much as I possibly can. So basically like a quote from this piece is the research, a trio of human rights groups, this was this past Wednesday, announced a new interactive initiative exposing what the coalition calls a genocide gentry of weapons company executives and board members, and 54 museums, cultural organizations, universities, and colleges that currently host these individuals on their boards or in other prominent roles. And this is really like important research, because I think some people have these possibly not after the encampment that got so violently quashed at universities this past summer, but people might have this idea that like these progressive movements and paradigms have a home in universities because they did during Vietnam.
Because they used to.
And I think it's important to show that they don't, and that like a lot of really great places like the Kennedy Center, for instance, in DC, that does great programming, will invite like, you know, indigenous performers to come and be a part of something that's like clearly, you know, anti-American imperialism. But they do this at the same time that they make bank off of this. It's so twisted. They make bank off of this as weapons manufacturers that are perpetuating genocide. So it's kind of like how Mayor Bowser in DC spray painted Black Lives Matter on 16th Street right outside the White House. They can dress it up. They can dress up U.S. imperialism as, you know, like an indigenous Halloween costume, and they can parade that shit around and make themselves look progressive. But at the core, this is who is behind it.
It's now called Black Lives Matter Boulevard.
Yeah, which is hilarious. So one example is Kathy Warden, who's the Northrop Grumman CEO and president. She is on the James Madison University scholarship sponsor. She's part of the Aspen Cybersecurity Group, which they're terrifying. They are a global nonprofit think tank committed to realizing a free, just, and equitable society. It has significant ties to the defense industry through shared board membership with General Dynamics and Northrop Grumman. And they are obviously very much tied, therefore, to genocide and the perpetuation of ecocide, climate chaos, and death and destruction around the world. But sure, that reads to me as a free, just, and equitable society. Absolutely.
We're not on one of these. Yeah, go ahead.
You can read. Go ahead.
Brian Rogers, RTX Board of Directors, which is RTX is Raytheon. Rogers is currently a trustee of the Harvard Management Company, tasked with managing the $50 billion endowment. So you have a blood on his hands war profiteer deciding where the $50 billion that Harvard has goes. Notably, Harvard administrators have cracked down on students demanding divestment from weapons companies like Raytheon.
That's shocking. Another one is, I don't know how to say this guy's name, Jay
Johnson, yeah.
I also don't care if I get his name wrong, because fuck this guy.
Well, he used to be, under Obama, he was someone, he had an important role in Obama's administration. What was he?
You know what, Johnson? I hope I get your name wrong.
He was Homeland Security, is that right? Secretary of Homeland Security, yeah, under Obama, yeah.
Look at you remembering shit like that. Anyway, so he is on, revolving door much? He's now on Lockheed Martin's board of directors. Isn't that funny? He's a Columbia University
I think,
trustee.
The revolving door is a little too slow. I feel like the rate they move, it needs to be like a slip and slide. Like just one to the other, straight into.
Have you seen revolving doors, though? They're terrifying. They can go fast.
Yes. Everyone, fun fact, Eleanor is afraid of revolving doors.
I am.
Not the kind with Raytheon. She means like the kind of buildings.
I'm also afraid of those, but in a more not hypothetical, but in a more like abstract sense. Anyway.
Thank you for the donation over on Rumble, and I love this name, Atomic Toaster. Thank you for donating and supporting the show. Really appreciate it.
So this Penis Wrinkle Johnson, he is a Columbia University trustee. He is He's on the MetLife board of directors, which is fossil fuels. He's also on the U.S. Steel board of directors, fossil fuels. And he's obviously a strong part of the extreme suppression that was experienced by protesters at Columbia University.
But this is progressive because he's a person of color, Eleanor. You're not allowed to point out that anything bad could be done by people of color.
I didn't even realize he was a person of color, but that don't mean shit in this situation because
you did not yes and my improv on that one.
I did not because I was busy looking at his picture. What was I going to say? Who was it? Now I'm forgetting who it was that called Obama the black poster child of Wall Street.
That's Cornel West.
Was it? Okay. I thought so. Anyway, so another one of these gilded pieces of shit. Heather Wilson, Lockheed Martin board of directors. She's on the National Science Foundation board. I wonder if they're allowed then to talk about the climate chaos that's connected to war.
Well,
and
did you know bombs work on science? That's what they're powered by.
She's also the University of Texas at El Paso president. So cool.
Women, but despite what we've learned, women can have it all.
Yeah.
She has a great family life. She can have it all.
She's also on the Google Public Sector Board of Directors.
This is Heather Wilson.
Yeah.
For those of you taking notes.
But okay,
it is important to name these people. It's important they not just
Absolutely.
be a dark blob that you never investigate. So
absolutely, and I think I think that it's important to just talk about it. And there's also a map if you go to Genocide Gentry. There's a map, so you could find out.
Look at this. Here's a group photo. Look at this lovely, diverse group of fellows and lady.
And so there's a map, so you could find something that's close to you, and do with that information whatever you will.
Say hi or have a sit-in protest as a form of saying hi.
Send a Harry and David package, So I think it's really important to recognize the deep-seated connections that these institutions have with the military-industrial complex. And this is something that I talked to Christian Sorensen, who does a great job of he has a Substack where he talks a lot about the military-industrial complex. And his point was that people think about it like it's just weapons, but that's actually that's just a part of it. It is an entire ecosystem. I hate using that word for this, but it is an entire ecosystem of connections that are so woven tightly into the culture of the United States that it's impossible to just to pull one without pulling the whole fucking thread. And so it's really important to recognize these connections and also therefore recognize that there are so many pressure points to look at when organizing, for instance, against the military-industrial complex.
Well said. And speaking of protesting and organizing, I have brought you some successes on college campuses, but there's been a huge crackdown on college campuses across the country. And here's another update on that.
Yeah, so UC, which I was a part of for a moment, that's the University of California.
By a part of, she means a student there, not a ex-Raytheon board of, member of the board. Yeah,
no, unfortunately, they didn't take my resume on LinkedIn. I tried. So UC, that's the University of California. UC Regents approve campus police requests for more military-style weapons and ammunition. And I'm sure it says this has nothing to do with the protests that happened in the UC system.
No.
So basically, they want more drones, robots, which that's not
drones.
Dystopian.
What the fuck are they doing drones?
Oh, every campus police now has drones, dude. Jesus. Pepper balls and projectile launchers. UCLA.
That's t-shirt cannons, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
UCLA's police, their request included 3 drones, 8 projectile launchers, 3,000 rounds of pepper balls, and 400 foam and sponge rounds. Lest we have to go over this again, less than lethal ammunition can be lethal. It can also be very, very debilitating. People have been permanently disabled because of these less than lethal rounds.
Yeah.
So the idea that this is just going to be like a little, like a little pinprick and an ow, that didn't feel good.
Rubber
No
bullets. It's not a big deal. Yeah, they can severely injure you. They take out eyes. Yeah.
And of course, their argument is that this is not for peaceful protests. This is for protests that turn violent. I am never going to stop saying this. Police make shit violent, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Police who show up dressed like Rambo or RoboCop, either one is not okay, carrying 3,000 rounds of pepper balls. Like, you're not, if you really want to be peaceful, show up like Andy Griffith, okay? Dress like Mr. Rogers and come talk to us. Don't show up riot gear up to the gills and say that it's their fault that shit turned violent.
This was one of my old comedy bits on one of my specials. Was no one dresses like Rambo and acts like Gandhi. It's just not a thing.
Exactly. So in all of my years of protesting, which has been since 2003, I have never seen shit get violent where the police did not start it first. Never, ever, never one single time, either police or neo-Nazis and fascists. I have never, ever seen it once go the other way. So F the UC system, and this is something to be very, very concerned about, the extreme militarization of campus police.
Riff McClaven comments, actually, Rambo wore very little.
I know that's
true. Well, that's true, but what he was wearing was grenades. So it was... It might
I realized that as I was saying it, I was like,
guns.
He didn't actually wear that much, but what he did wear was not okay.
No, it was very large
Like
guns.
If he was just dressed in
believe,
like a torn shirt and jeans, it's like, that's fine.
I believe the only thing that covered his schlong for the PG-13 rating was an AK-47. So, but here's some good news over at MIT. So it's not all bad college campus news. The MIT Coalition for Palestine shares a major victory. MIT activists end the first American-Israeli weapons manufacturer partnership at a university. So this is a direct partnership, which is different than a lot of what goes on. It's rare to see a direct partnership between a U.S. campus and Israeli weapons manufacturer. But MIT had that. And apparently, Scientists Against Genocide Everywhere, SAGE movement at MIT, has won this victory.
That's great.
So, gotta celebrate the wins.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's talk about the company with exploding oil pipelines for a moment.
I like how you're the only one who has a good news story.
Yeah. Oh wait.
I hope you enjoyed it, everyone. That was your palate cleanser.
Let's see what Jimmy has to say real quick. Thank you for the donation, Jimmy. The University of Arizona police had permission to use chemical aerosols on people trying to set up a sit-in protest with tents. Shut that shit down. I don't know if you mean shut down the chemical aerosols or you mean they shut it down. Either way, it's horrific. Thank you, Jimmy,
both.
for supporting the show.
Well, this was like during an Occupy encampment at a university years ago. And the footage went viral.
Wasn't it UC Berkeley?
Yeah, I don't remember. But of a cop, like they're people are sitting, linking arms, like this.
Yeah, it's a famous video.
And the cop just walks by and pepper sprays them all in the face as they're sitting there, just on the pavement.
Yeah, it was UC Berkeley, and then like a couple of years, and it went viral, and everyone talked about it. And the cop was put on, not active duty or whatever it's called. While they investigated or whatever. But like years later, like 2 or 3 years later, he won a severance package for the trauma he'd been through. The cop did.
Yeah.
It's fucking insane.
Very dramatic.
It was tough it was so traumatic when I sprayed pepper spray into peaceful students' eyes. It was really rough on me. It was a tough thing. I'm not getting over yet.
Yeah.
So
So this story is close to my heart in several ways. So Energy Transfer, which used to be Energy Transfer Partners, their rebranding didn't go really that far. They are the ones responsible behind for the exploded pipeline in Texas that happened a
Riff
few days
McClaven
ago.
might be right. It was UC Davis, not UC Berkeley. I apologize.
But UC system, here we are.
UC
again.
system, yeah.
So on Monday, so this is Friday the 20th that we're recording this. So this would have been Monday. A pipeline carrying fossil gas liquids exploded next to a residential area in the suburbs of Houston, sending a massive pillar of fire into the sky, and first responders evacuated nearly 1,000 neighboring homes.
Please tell me the company gave everyone in the area a free pizza like Chevron did when their fracking well exploded.
So here's the thing, Lee. We've gone past that. They don't do that anymore.
They don't even give them a pizza?
No, they don't. You don't even get a pizza. Those were the good old days when you'd get a pizza.
When you get a pizza when your neighborhood exploded.
Yeah. No, now they don't. Now they're nice if they let the first responders in to tell you that you better leave your house before it catches on fire. So these absolute pieces of shit, Energy Transfer Partners, now known as Energy Transfer, have a long history of being...
They were worried partners gave the feeling of cooperation. And they wanted to cut that out of their name.
Something they do in these situations is called like a burn off. And so gas liquids were still burning off more than 12 hours after the initial explosion, spewing pollution directly into the atmosphere, of course. Thousands of people temporarily lost power. Students at nearby schools and college campuses were ordered to shelter in place, which, by the way, whatever they are breathing in, not great. So sheltering in place doesn't really help unless you have a gas mask, which I'm guessing they don't supply the kids with because, fuck them kids.
Well, another reason they don't supply or warn people to have gas masks around the areas where this could happen is because then the people might think that it could happen.
And they might be pissed that this is right next door.
And they might be pissed it's next door. So instead, let's not prepare for it. Let's not tell anyone this could happen.
So Energy Transfer is also the company behind the Dakota Access Pipeline, as well as the tail end of it in Louisiana that I was also a part of combating, the Bayou Bridge Pipeline.
Anna Ringwald in the comment section has a good point. The car that is clearly burned in this image, how's that person doing?
Not great. Not great. So some backstory about this area. It's in a place called LaPorte or LaPorte. I'm not sure how folks there pronounce it. It's about 25 miles southwest of Houston, and it has the highest concentration of petrochem plants in the world, with nearly 50 plants, 2 ports, and miles of pipelines that transport hazardous materials. So it's actually surprising that we don't see them in the news every day for something exploding. And I can only imagine how much people in that area suffer from a wide variety of issues, from respiratory issues, cancer, skin conditions, etc. So again, the Energy Transfer shut down the pipeline, but they let the remaining gas liquids to burn off, which is a very common practice, but it is horrendous, obviously, for the environment. And so there's also no something else that they were cagey about in typical fashion, which particular gas chemicals were being burned off. So officials, federal regulators, were asked to ask the company to identify the chemicals so residents could take necessary precautions. Statements from Energy Transfer did not specify what type of gas liquid was burned. So
it might be nice of them to tell us what they're burning.
But this is also very common practice, right? Either because it's a quote unquote trade secret or because they don't actually have to. And they're worried. A lot of these companies are worried if they do tell you what's being burned, somebody might come in and say, you're not allowed to be burning.
Those are cancer causing chemicals.
Right. Or this isn't what was agreed upon in your initial permit to be to have here. So they just don't say anything. And regulators are like, okay, I mean, I asked. What more can I do?
Yeah.
So people have no idea.
Here's the thing. I feel like if you were just burning this shit in your backyard, wouldn't they have a right? Like, wouldn't the authorities have a right to come in and say, what are you burning in your backyard?
But this is also, I can't remember the comedian, but he had this bit about like, if you kill like 1 to 10 people, like you're going to go to jail for a very long time. They're going to look at you and like through a little like hole in the wall. But if you kill thousands of people, people are like, oh my gosh, that's impressive. Good job. Wow. I'm like,
yeah.
Well done.
Like Netanyahu.
Right. So it's like, no, you can't just burn a bunch of unknown toxic chemicals in your backyard. But if you're a giant corporation, burn, baby, burn. And of course, again, this is very classic for this company. And actually in 2017, Energy Transfer Partners sued the Standing Rock Sioux tribe and the environmental group Greenpeace over the Dakota Access Pipeline protests.
They sued the Sioux? I'm just asking. I just wasn't sure what you said. But I'm correct. They sued the Sioux. Okay, let's move on.
Yeah, and so this is the kind of company that Energy Transfer is. So I mean, it's not like surprising. I have, again, as I often say on the show, I've lost my ability to be shocked entirely. But I will never lose my ability to be disgusted. And I think I bring this up partially because it's absolutely disgusting, but also because the more we recognize that like our struggles are interconnected and that we're fighting the same assholes, I think the more that we can build and the more that we can be actually like efficient and effective.
Yep. This is all these things are linked. I mean, Energy Transfer Partners, first of all, they're pivotal to war. You can't have war without crazy amounts of oil, but also they are the corporate ruling elite that have huge sway along with other oil companies over our government. So all this shit we argue about politicians, Congress won't do nothing. Well, it's the people owned by people like Energy Transfer Partners. So, oh, wait, they're not partners anymore. I forgot. They're not cooperating anymore. They're just Energy Transfer. They're Energy Transfer fuck off is their new, is their new name.
I mean, I wish they did have that name. I would respect them more if they just said that.
Okay, we are now we're going to play some clips of this interview, this gut-wrenching interview with a doctor in Gaza. What he has to say is truly amazing. Real quick before I play those clips, please, everyone, if you want to see this show continue, if you're a fan of this show, if you listen to it even just once a week or once a month, it'd be awesome if you could join up at leecamp.net. That will forward you to the locals page, and you can scroll down to become a subscriber and support there. You can also support, or otherwise you can support at patreon.com/leecamp. It will basically be the same there. You get all kinds of perks, you get extra segments, etc. And you get to see this show continue, which I feel like a lot of you would prefer. Okay, so that being said, so maybe just open a separate tab, leecamp.net, and you can do it later after the show's over. But that being said, we're going to get to these clips of an interview that Eleanor did, and if you want to set it up for us.
Sure. So the doctor's name is Dr. Khalil Khalidi, and he's located in the central part of Gaza, a so-called safe zone. But as people who watch this show and others like it already know, safe zone doesn't mean a damn thing. And he says in a different part of the interview that, actually it's this part of the interview, so I won't trample on his description. It's like an hour interview. So we spoke for a long time, and I'm very grateful that he was able to take the time. And what he shares in the interview is so remarkably distressing, and it's necessary. It is absolutely necessary that we listen to these words and that we not turn away. We owe them that little. Like at the end of the interview, he had a few things like to say about like what we can do. And it's like really like the least that we can do is just watch, like force ourselves to take it in, to accept that this is reality. and that we as children of the empire are in a unique position to do something about it, and whatever that looks like, you know, whether that be, I personally think that the only thing that we can do that would actually mean anything, no offense to protests, is grind the economy to a halt. There has to be some kind of general strike that grinds the economy to a halt, and we say collectively, you don't get your economy back until you end the genocide.
Yeah. And that has been done to some degree against Israel, although it needs to be much larger. But Israel's economy is severely suffering thanks to hard work by millions of activists.
Right. So this interview will be aired in full on Project Censored's website, projectcensored.org. It's not up yet.
So you're getting
a very exclusive first look.
Exclusive first look. Yeah.
But do check back. You can also follow me on social media at Radical Eleanor, and I will post, of course, when it's available. But yeah, I guess without further ado, Dr. Khalil Khalidi.
So I'm going to play about a 5-minute clip or a little less, and we will again give the link where you can watch the full interview afterwards. But let's go ahead here.
Very often, like every few minutes.
I'm sorry. I thought we wouldn't want. Yeah, I thought we wouldn't want two Eleanors on at the same time. The question is, how safe is it where you are?
No, that's not the question.
How much are you bombed?
Well, because a few minutes prior, he had understandably jumped because there was a bomb that went off like very close to where he is, and so I asked him, how often do bombs go off where you are?
I'm not sure if my phone picks it or does noise cancellation or something like this, but you can hear clashes right now. There's the buzzing of the drone, and there's bombing every like 20 to 30 minutes. That's another point, that they play it as a video game. So whenever they board, the tanks just launch randomly, like throw bombs or throw missiles randomly. Whether it's a home or a land or just random, it doesn't matter, because it's a playground for them, literally. And many people from the IDF had posted about it and talked about it, how fun it is. And we have this rule here. If you hear a drone, you are safe, because the drone is here to inspect and record. And once the drone comes silent, there is a bomb coming, that the target has been like locked in. And if you hear the bomb, you are safe. As you can tell, I heard a bomb, but I didn't like bother checking or what, because yes, the bomb, if I hear it, it's not on me, so I'm good. As long as you hear a sound, you're good. But once you don't hear the sound is when you are very, very worried. It means that it's very close to you or on you. And people who have survived always tell us that, okay, I will be sitting and I will just hear like an air vacuum, kind of sit like this sound, and I will go blank, and I will wake up in the hospital or wake up by people pulling me from the rubble, and that's, or you wake up in heaven, one of the two. So that's our rule. If you hear a sound, you're good. If you don't hear a sound, be worried. And to teach that to a child, that's another story. Because I don't know how like our children grasp it or our children views it, but they know this rule very well. And I'm telling you this rule because we simplify it to the kids to not be worried. Okay, you hear the sound? Good. But if once the drone comes silent, you have your child or your cousin or any child in the hospital rushing to you and hugging you and telling you, I love you, can I come or sit next to you? Because they know once things get silent, there's something dropping. And that's how the children deal with it, or how the children survive this. Not survive, but like, I don't know a better term to say how they go through it, But yeah.
Yeah, it's, I mean, he's amazing and he's brave, and we did mention he's a doctor. He has had countless children die in his arms, countless people die in his arms, and yet he perseveres during this genocide. I found particularly fascinating, considering how many people are dying from famine now in Gaza, because IDF and Israel won't let food in, but they do allow some food in. However, as you told me about, they make it so the price of food is basically impossible.
Yeah, and I mean, we can talk about because there's another short clip where he talks about how they count the dead.
I can find that while you're talking.
But so the reason that people are starving in Gaza is because they can't get food in. I mean, Gaza has been for a long time an open air prison, and as Dr. Khalidi told me, the Israelis control everything. That's why they don't have supplies in the hospital. They're making disinfectant from things that they have. They're making soap from olives. They're trying to survive the best that they can, and Israel is obviously trying to make sure that they don't. And he was telling me that the Israelis let certain amount of food in, but it's priced at such rates that people can't buy it, because where the hell are people getting money? I mean, it's not like he's not getting paid to go to work every day and work a 36-hour shift. And he said sometimes he'll work a 36-hour shift, which I don't even understand that, which consists of people literally dying in your arms over and over and over again, and amputating people where you have nothing to give them but a Tylenol. And so he's not getting paid. So people are, if they had any savings, those are gone. So people don't have the ability to buy the food. And then what Israel does, which he told me about, Israel will go in and show this food that that has like that people can't access, and Israel will be like, see, they don't even want the food, they don't need the food, which is of course so fucking twisted.
Or similarly, Israel is steadily giving the U.S. updates on like how many food trucks have gotten in, because they want to, they and the UN probably as well, because they want to claim they're allowing food. Look, we're doing the non-genocide thing. We are allowing food in, we're allowing medical supplies, whatever. And so they will report this many trucks of food went in. But if they're then charging some crazy amount of money so that once the food actually gets to the people, and he sent you separately a clip of a little slice of onion, like 1/5 of an onion is $10, which $10 for your average Palestinian is like
one tomato is $30. It's like
$100, $200 for a tomato by regular standards. It's just utterly insane. But then Israel gets to run around and say, we let all the food in. Well, look at all the food we sent in, like, etc. Okay, so now we're going to play this is just like a 15 or 20-second clip about, he's talking about how they count the dead. We all know it's over 40,000, but on top of that, they've just Gaza Health Ministry just a few days ago released a list of, it was 640 pages of the names and ages of people who've been murdered by Israel since October 7th. And so he mentions that as well.
In the death toll, because it's not the direct death toll. The direct death toll that's been announced here by the Ministry of Health is the retrieved bodies that's been identified. That's it. That's the number. The 40,000 are the people that they've been identified with retrieved bodies, dead on the spot. Not the people that died from infection, not the people that died later on because of other complications, not the people that haven't been identified yet, the unknowns, not the people that are still stuck on the rubble and recorded as missing. These are not included in the statistics or the list that's been published lately, like 4 days ago, by the Ministry of Health.
So, and a part of this that he gets to later, where he talks about in particular unknown children, these death tolls don't include them, because as if you look at what was released by the Ministry of Health, they all have names, but so many don't know their names because they come in just as almost dead or even dead, and they don't have any family. There is an acronym in Gaza that only exists in Gaza: WCNSF, Wounded Child No Surviving Family. And if that child dies or they're too young, I mean, Dr. Khalidi was saying that he has tried to save children ranging from 1 month to 10 years old. So obviously a 1-month-old can't tell you their name. So these unknowns are not included in the death toll, even though obviously they are a part of the death toll. And the people who die of infection, which is rampant because they don't have any disinfectant, they don't have hospital gowns when they do amputations. They don't have any basic fucking supplies. So these deaths, which are a part of the death toll, obviously, are not counted. So 40,000, like, with respect to the Gaza Ministry of Health, is a bullshit number because it doesn't include any of these. And as Dr. Khalidi said, it doesn't include the people who are still stuck under the rubble, which is thousands of people, because you can't lift an entire building and find out who is really under there. So it's like, it's impossible to really give an accurate number, but it is many times 40,000.
Right. And then you guys have heard me repeat it many times that the Lancet Medical Journal says that it's this is 2 months ago, it was over 186,000, but it's well over, I'm sure, 200,000 once you count deaths from disease and famine that would not have happened if Israel wasn't committing this genocide. So, Israel should absolutely be held accountable for all of those as well. You can't just say, oh no, only the people that got hit by our bombs count. All the people that died from unclean water and no food and no medicine, that doesn't count. Of course it does. So
and the people who died of diabetes or cancer because they couldn't get treatment, those count too.
Yeah. And I've been thinking more about this. I mean, maybe it's ridiculous that I had this thought over 11 months in, but I'm not easily shocked by the way Americans behave. Like, I know mostly what we are, but I find it shocking that this many Americans can be fine with genocide. I think genocide that is also like live streamed on social media and stuff. I didn't think you'd see this many people supporting genocide. It's absolutely unbelievable, or either supporting it or being like 100% silent, like can't even do a retweet about the genocide that's ongoing here. So
yeah, it is.
All right, folks, we are wrapping up, but thank you so much for being with us for this hour. Oh, I almost forgot. We were going to again tell you where to watch that full hour and when it'll be up.
Yeah, so it will be up on projectcensored.org. And you just go to the radio show tab. It will be a video and audio, and I recommend that you check out the video because I do share images with his permission of Dr. Khalidi's artwork, along with things like a map to show where he is in Gaza and things like that. So I do recommend that you check out the video version, and that will be up soon on projectcensored.org within the next few days. But again, you can, if you don't feel like checking back there constantly, you can follow me at Radical Eleanor, and I will post it once it goes up.
So yeah, that's projectcensored.org. It's also a podcast, right? I can find it on.
Oh yeah, it'll air on as a podcast. I just say like the video I feel is important because it shows images of his work that I think need to be seen.
Right. You all are amazing. Thank you for joining us. I do this 4 days a week: Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, and Government Secrets every other Wednesday. Eleanor usually joins me on Fridays. And yeah, you guys are amazing. I hope you will have a great weekend and keep fighting for change, keep fighting for justice, keep fighting for all that is valuable in this world. And see you Monday.